Highly explosive developments at the US Federal Reserve and with Donald Trump. Forbes even writes here that the whole thing could trigger a 22 trillion Fed price earthquake for Bitcoin. Jerome Powell is now in the crossfire, and the next dam break is just around the corner. Willy Woo, an analyst, is even already talking about a dollar collapse. And on top of that, the next gold companies, the gold mining companies, are now turning to Bitcoin and want to massively accumulate Bitcoin. And we're seeing a Bitcoin banking quake breaking out here in Germany, with banks now getting FOMO and all wanting to get into Bitcoin. Guys, this is crazy. We're now seeing a targeted conspiracy against Fed Chair Jerome Powell, and it's probably only a matter of time before he's replaced by someone else. The pressure is now growing beyond measure. Donald Trump is applying pressure. Cynthia Lummis is now ramping up the pressure as well. Now even the US Department of Housing is getting involved. This whole thing is super relevant for Bitcoin, because it could trigger the Bitcoin bull run. It could set off the ultimate Bitcoin scenario. All over X, memes like this are being shared now. I'm resigning here from Jerome Powell. And the whole thing could really pick up momentum now if we take a look. Here, it's just tweets about Jerome Powell being posted, like him being interrogated over a leak. And now he's being charged or questioned. Here, people are calling for his immediate resignation. The New York Times is reporting on it, and much more. Look, it's just Jerome Powell, Jerome Powell, Jerome Powell, Donald Trump, Jerome Powell. And there's even an investigation here, Politico. The entire media world is upside down, and everyone wants Jerome Powell gone. And the faster Jerome Powell is gone, the faster the Bitcoin price shoots up. I'm not saying that's a good thing or anything like that. Now let's take a look at the whole story and what it means for Bitcoin. Go ahead and smash the like button below if you want Jerome Powell to be replaced. Bitcoin to shoot to the moon. No more limits on the money supply. And while the US dollar probably won't collapse, Bitcoin will definitely benefit massively from it. So hit the like button below now for higher Bitcoin prices. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And now let's take a look at what's going on right now. It's really crazy. The Bitcoin price isn't looking too bad at the moment, just a few thousand euros away from the all-time high. And as Max Kaiser already says, at 100,000 US dollars, Bitcoin will divide the world. At 200,000 US dollars, central banks and nation-states will panic as 500 million people declare their independence. At 300,000 US dollars, the USD will crash. The Bitcoin price will be pegged to gold, as the US dollar effectively collapses. And Willy Woo takes it even further here. Fiat will explode. Fiat exists to make up for excessive government spending. This train won't run forever. If this fiat money survives, then welcome to the year 1984. That means there are really only two possibilities. Either fiat dies, or we wake up here in a surveillance and yes, debt enslavement dictatorship. It's a bit exaggerated, sure, of course, but that's the example Willy Woo and also Max Kaiser are presenting here. That collapse is inevitable. And we can see this now as well with Jerome Powell. Donald Trump is once again sounding the alarm here. Here, too late, should resign immediately. So, he should step down right away. He's still too late. Fed chairs should be investigated by Congress, FHFA says. So that's the, real estate. No, not real estate. The American Housing Authority, the head of it. And Donald Trump is sharing this here, that now there's an investigation underway against Jerome Powell, and he should immediately, yes, vacate his position. And we've already seen all along that Donald Trump has been going after him hard. And now there are all these other people who have jumped on the bandwagon. So you could almost call it a conspiracy against Jerome Powell, right? And we can also see here, then there was this article saying that the whole thing could trigger a 22 trillion Fed price earthquake for Bitcoin, because of course the money supply would be massively increased if this scenario happens, and then there would be no more limits for Bitcoin. Let's take a look here now. I don't think anything like this has ever happened in all of history. So here we see the head, the US Director of Federal Housing, the head of the Housing Authority in the USA. And what we're seeing here is truly unique. We've never seen such a witch hunt against the Fed president before. Here, like this video, if you want Jerome Powell to step down. Of course, he doesn't write video here, he writes tweet. But you should obviously like the video here. Then we have memes here about Jerome Powell. I will resign. Then we have people here being retweeted, thanking others for calling for an investigation into Jerome Powell. Here are interest rate expectations. And here you can also see, Donald Trump, do it already, finally fire him. Then here, a chart is shared, Jerome Powell. And then you see the US housing prices. And Jerome Powell is basically being blamed for it, right? That he is responsible here for the US housing market collapsing. So it's not just the US dollar. According to these people, the US housing market is also collapsing here. Yeah, to be fair, you have to say this might be a bit of an exaggerated example. Here it says, the most unaffordable level in history. So you can see it very clearly here. You can see that it's never been so unaffordable to buy real estate in the US. And that's something I've been talking about for a long time. And if you look here, you'll probably see that 1971 is the key date. Yeah, look, you can see it here. Here's 1971. And then it started going up. And what was the reason? It was because of fiat money. So yeah, Jerome Powell is kind of, let's say, to blame for this. But the crazy thing is, They actually want an even more expansionary Fed chair here, which would make all of this explode even more. So, Jerome Powell is currently responsible for this, for things continuing to go up. But right now, Jerome Powell is still on a restrictive course. That means, if Jerome Powell steps down here, this curve will shoot up even more steeply. So, I would go along with this, but only halfway. Because basically they're replacing Jerome Powell, saying he's responsible for the housing collapse, but want to replace him with someone who would probably blow up the whole bubble even more. And that's exactly why I say, hey, what's happening right now is so awesome for Bitcoin. Anyone without Bitcoin is going to lose out big time here. I mean, it's not great for those people. You have to be clear about that too. That's always the dilemma. Bitcoiners are happy or the Bitcoin price goes up. But what about the people without Bitcoin? So, then there's this hearing they want to hold against him. Fed chief, who apparently is lying here. Yeah, then here's Jerome Powell. And even more statistics are shown. Here you can see in another way how housing costs are going up. Here they show the leak that revealed Jerome Powell is a Trump hater. Then, here you see the whole story from Donald Trump again. Here it's shown again that Jerome Powell is to blame for the fact that people today can't afford houses anymore. And now Cynthia Lummis joins in as well. Cynthia Lummis is also totally losing it. She writes that Jay Powell should be running the Federal Reserve, not building a modern Versailles, and that his inability to put aside his own interests in favor of sound policy. He should get rid of that. And all of this shows that we need new leadership at the Fed. We're glad that Donald Trump is around here. And Cynthia Lummis apparently wants to indict him, or take him to court over Operation Choke Point 2.0. So, for various reasons, he's now in the hot seat here. And we could probably keep going like this for another 10 minutes. Here we see a whole lot of other accusations as well. Here we see the New York Times getting involved now, Politico, all the big media outlets, and so on and so forth. Here, Donald Trump is posting about it again, condemning, and so on, blah, blah, blah. And then we have stories like this one here. The second largest bank in Belgium, KVC, now wants to allow Bitcoin purchases, right? And of course, that's the next big story here. We're also seeing a lot of banks in Germany now betting on Bitcoin. What I also found really interesting here, public gold miner Hammock Limited announces it will buy Bitcoin for the treasury, so they no longer trust their own product and are now moving into Bitcoin. That is, of course, a massive signal for Bitcoin. I mean, you've always had what I've been saying. Hey, the capital flows are moving from gold to Bitcoin, from stocks to Bitcoin, from real estate to Bitcoin, and not the other way around. Some people always want to tell me, yeah, at some point it'll go from Bitcoin back into gold, and so on. But no, what we're seeing is that the capital flows are exactly the other way around. Bitcoin is the black hole here that sucks everything in, not the other way around. And now there was actually a very, very interesting assessment, because especially here in Germany, we have so many banks that are betting on Bitcoin, and actually Lottie, who is also, a banker or ex-banker. I'm not even sure if he still has anything to do with the banking world. He shares a very, very interesting perspective. I'll just quickly read it out here, because now we have such big offerings. You can also see it here in the graphic. Here you can basically see which banks have all on board or are onboarding to Bitcoin. Sparkus, DZ Bank, Volksbank, Raiffeisen Bank in here. Then we have Tiger Bank, Banca, Tatra Bank. I don't know that one. Tatra Bank, sorry, misread that. And Deutsche Bank. Here we see Sparkus with 50 million, DZ Bank with 30 million. Here Tandra Bank, Tatra Bank, have to pronounce it correctly. Part of the RBI group with several million customers. Then Deutsche Bank with 100 million customers globally. And you can see what a massive impact this has. And here, Bitcoin is on the rise in the banking world. An overview of developments in the past few weeks. We expect, and have been expecting, Bitcoin to gain more and more momentum in the traditional financial world. The past 2 weeks clearly show just how much is happening behind the scenes. Here, DZ Bank, the pilot has started. Later this summer, together with 6 cooperative banks, trading and custody of cryptocurrencies will be made possible. Additional cooperative banks are expected to join gradually. Savings banks. After a long period of hesitation, the decision has now been made. Within the next 12 months, entry will take place through an offering from DekaBank, which will also handle custody. The necessary infrastructure and licenses are already in place. RBI Group has announced its entry into crypto trading. Through Katra Bank, trading for private customers is set to begin in 2025. Deutsche Bank. In addition to B2B trading, in-house custody of cryptocurrencies will also be possible in the future, because things are really taking off. And here, there will be no way around Bitcoin. Every bank and savings bank now needs to strategically prepare for the new asset class centered around Bitcoin. Central infrastructure partners like DZ Bank and DekaBank offer solutions, but each individual institution needs internal expertise and well-founded decisions, to make sound choices here and ensure the new offerings. An often underestimated point, customer communication. Even without integration into investment advisory services, customers will ask questions, and customer advisors need to be able to speak knowledgeably on this topic. I've been supporting banks and savings banks here for years, says Lottie. Interest is growing, driven by regulatory clarity and the current market dynamics. What's interesting is that the savings banks still have a very, very long list of disadvantages when it comes to Bitcoin. It's seen as a speculative asset, not a real currency, still only accepted to a limited extent, only accepted in a few countries, and the software still needs improvement. We've also made a video about all these points. It's kind of funny, of course, that they're now being confronted with their own past. These massive Bitcoin critics are suddenly the ones opening up to Bitcoin, but they don't even remove their previous points of criticism and, honestly, are taking a totally inauthentic approach in some cases, just because the market is forcing them to do so. Let me know down in the comments how you currently assess the whole situation. And if you still want to buy Bitcoin, I'll put a link for you below to 21 Bitcoin. Here you can buy Bitcoin easily, securely, and simply. With the code Bitcoin Hotel, you can still get up to 20% off the fees when buying Bitcoin. I'm now on my way to Salzburg for the Electric Love Festival. We'll have a Bitcoin booth and much more there. I'll be doing a ton of interviews there. Let me know in the comments below if you might be coming. If you are, make sure to stop by the 21 Bitcoin booth at the Electric Love Festival, and we'll see each other there. Guys, don't forget to buy Bitcoin. No adventure, no financial advice. See you then, peace out.